now I have another lump here and another lump here.
And so if you've been intimate with Soosh, I would strongly suggest you get swabbed for MRSA to ensure that you don't have it.
This is probably the worst thing that could happen from peptides, just like a bad pin.
Now, the worst thing that could happen is you're literally gonna die. Coach Greg, in today's video, Peptides put Soosh into a hospital. And he writes a comment and he makes 2 videos on Instagram. It says, "Gurus, help me out, what happened?" And so in today's video, I'm gonna be explaining exactly what happened, what he did right, what he did wrong, and what you too can do in order to avoid this happening to you.
Peptides put me into the hospital. Let me explain. I was doing MOTS-C, 5 milligrams 3 times a week, 50 units, and I was injecting in the same spot every single time because that's just how I am.
To keep things simple, don't inject in the same spot more than once a week. It all depends if it's mixed in oil, in water, whether it's injected into the fat, into the muscle. And so rather than taking a chance, don't inject in the same spot every single day or even every other day. Keep rotating, and that will help you.
I was doing MOTS-C, 5 milligrams 3 times a week, 50 units.
If you're injecting high volume, it has to be inside the muscle. You shouldn't be injecting more than, for example, 1 cc under the skin into the fat because it's simply too much for it to handle.
And I started to get this lump, and lumps aren't new to me. I've had lumps before because I've been doing this for like 6 years.
First things first, if you're getting lumps without an infection, that is an immune response, and you need to change substances. Your body is reacting to the substance, whether it's the actual drug or the carrier oil, for example. That is what's causing that problem. And so you don't keep injecting it because your body, it's now not liking it. It needs to switch to something else.
And usually they go away, but this one wasn't going away. After like a month, it starts to get real red, really big. It's getting warm. I was never running a fever or anything, but clearly there was like an infection.
And so Soosh doesn't realize that that redness, that swelling, that anger that was coming out, that's actually a warning sign. It's literally his body speaking out to him saying, please do something about it.
Try to ignore it. I'm just like, I'm going to Europe. And I partied.
And so the longer you wait to get it looked at, the worse the scar is going to be because the doctors are going to eventually have to drain it. If you catch it early on, it's good. It's kind of like if you can imagine somebody getting cancer. Better to get it at stage 1 than stage 4 because the chances of overcoming it and having no problem whatsoever are much greater.
The moral of the story is you always see these, you see these gurus. Peptides are so safe, which they are. I sell peptides. I have a company. I literally make money on peptides. I'm an advocate for them.
Technically, are peptides safe? Well, it all depends. Now, the main problem is people who are injecting these peptides, and oftentimes they're doing it wrong. Are you in fact doing this in a sterile environment? Are you using multiple alcohol swabs? Are you swabbing the vial, rubbing the vial with an alcohol swab, as well as rubbing the skin to ensure that there is no bacteria present? Because if there's any bacteria and you don't disinfect, you're going to introduce that bacteria into your body. It can then multiply, get worse, and you'll see exactly what happened here with Soosh, where you end up having to get it drained.
They're not foolproof, right? You could still have a bad... This is probably the worst thing that could happen from peptides, just like a bad pin.
Now, the worst thing that could happen is you're literally going to die. It could have literally gone systemic. It could have ended in that way. He could have injected the peptide, which had bacteria, into an artery or vein. It could have eventually got to his heart, and it would be significantly worse than this. And so although this isn't good, it could be far worse.
What I think it is it was just too high of a concentration of MOTS-C and too much water.
And so Soosh, most likely not aware of this, but germ theory was discovered in the early 1900s. It's not the water, it's not the MOTS-C, it's the bacteria that's causing the infection. This bacteria could be on your skin, it could be on your hands, it could be on the counter that you're using, it could be anywhere. It could be even inside the vial that you're using. If bacteria was somehow to get into this vial, perhaps you injected a needle with bacteria on it and you poked it through, there's now bacteria inside of the vial. Now, normally a small amount of alcohol inside the vial is going to destroy that bacteria, but sometimes it doesn't. And once you inject that fluid into your body now has that bacteria, which it does not want. And of course, your last line of defense, your immune system, if that cannot handle that problem, that bacteria, then this is what can happen. Every time you inject a peptide, you are literally poking a hole into your body. that is essentially stabbing yourself. You're introducing a hole. Bacteria can now enter it. And so it's like cutting yourself on a nail. Perhaps you didn't think it's a big deal. You scratched yourself, and before you know it, it's too late. Hopefully, you're choosing a hole to inject that's not near where you poop or pee. These areas are not as clean as other areas. For example, your deltoid or perhaps your stomach. And so it's smart to not do these things when you're a little bit dirty or potentially might be dirty. I mean, frankly, the best time was probably exactly following a shower where you've completely cleaned your body and you're not using just one alcohol swab, but several. I mean, do you really care about saving 2 cents? Use multiple swabs every single time in order to avoid this problem.
Peptides are so safe, which they are. I sell peptides. I have a company. I literally make money on peptides. I'm an advocate for them.
Probably not the best advertisement of all time to tell people that he's selling peptides. I mean, imagine if I said, hey, I bought something from Algo RX and this ended up happening to me. I mean, frankly, wouldn't you prefer trusting yourself to a company like Algo RX that gets everything from compounding pharmacies? Not some sketchy research chemical bullshit, not from some SARM site, but from compounding pharmacies prescribed by doctors so that you know it's safer than last time. These companies go through all the rigors to ensure the safety of each and every vial. And so if you want to inject safer compounds than last time, code Greg for your discount. Please go to Algo RX. And so remember, when you buy a peptide, perhaps it's GHKCU, for example, the copper peptide. And so oftentimes you'll see it's blue, a blue powder. You then have to insert bacteriostatic water, not tap water. Hopefully everyone is smarter than that. And so if you inject the water into the vial, but you did not swab the top correctly, you may have injected bacteriostatic water that also has bacteria. And so every time you then use that vial, you're reintroducing more bacteria into your body. That is what's going on. And so just because the peptide that you buy is safe doesn't mean that the person that bought it isn't doing something wrong. Bacteriostatic water has a small amount of benzyl alcohol, just enough to prevent the bacteria from growing. It doesn't actually kill all of the bacteria, but it prevents it from growing larger than last time.
So 50 units, 5 milligrams, it didn't absorb into my skin. Maybe I've heard people having issues with MOTS-C as well.
He mentions that other people have problems with MOTS-C, and so here's the thing. Not everyone's bodies likes MOTS-C. For some people, it's an irritant. MOTS-C is a research compound. You're technically not supposed to inject it. And why would you bother? Do you really think MOTS-C is as good as Soosh is saying? Does anyone think that MOTS-C is as effective for improving your cardio as GO2 Max? I mean, let's be honest. Which do you think is better? Products in GO2 Max have randomized controlled trials proving that it works. MOTS-C, a research chemical. Which do you think is better? And so why would you be injecting MOTS-C when you can literally be swallowing this and having no problem when it's going to improve your cardio? And if it doesn't, it's a money back guarantee. Guys, which makes more sense? Don't forget code Greg for 15% off.
And we checked and nobody else had any issues with this batch.
If you actually want to determine whether the lot has been compromised, you would need to send the entire lot back for testing. A chemist would literally have to look and analyze. Are there any bacteria present in this lot in any of the vials? That is the only way. Simply getting on the phone and asking if anyone had any problems, that is not enough. Remember, once the chemist looks at it, it needs to be proven that it's sterile, that there's zero bacteria. There can't be any whatsoever.
Here's the lump, or here was the lump, and you could see where they cut in and drained it.
What I'm seeing is a drained abscess. You can see that a hole that the doctor would have cut in. And so in that hole, the doctor would have removed all the pus, the blood, all the infectious material, and allowing this hole to remain open allows more of the disgustingness, the infection to leak out over the next coming days. This is known as healing by tertiary intention, where the remaining infectious material can slowly ooze out of that hole. I want to direct your attention towards the left. Zoom in a little bit. Perhaps you can't see. Do you notice some red streaking lines? If you see that, that is known as lymphadenitis. Because of this, we can see that the infection has now spread to the lymphatics. It's outside of the abscess. What this indicates is that this is close to going systemic. It's perhaps one step away of causing greater difficulty than he ever wants to imagine. And so what this could easily lead to is known as cellulitis. Many of you have heard that, where the soft tissue is infected and it can rapidly grow until the point where you're actually dead in a matter of days.
Okay, but now I switched over because the Mott C was working so good.
You know, that Mott C was working so good, maybe 1%, that I just had to keep using. I mean, he doesn't care that essentially Mott C is an allergy to his body, that this is going to continue to happen. It's so effective that 1% improvement in performance, of which he could get more benefit than that from using GO2 Max, that he continues to use it. Despite the fact that eventually it could lead to cellulitis, that he could actually die, well, I'm just going to keep going because I need to improve my cardio. I mean, Soosh, if you want to improve your cardio that much, stop partying harder than last time. Stop with the vitamin K, the sniffing, creatine, all of these things. If you really care about being the best cardio athlete in the world, doing the Ironmans, racing, perhaps Coach Greg on Zwift, why not just give up some of the partying? That would have so much greater ROI than what you're doing, that why would you even bother?
That I was like, bro, I have to continue it because it was helping my training so much. And now I have another lump here and another lump here. I still do tests.
Just look at those lumps. If you had those lumps on your body, would you not be concerned? Would you just say, no big deal, I'm just going to keep going? It doesn't appear to be an abscess. It's more of a granuloma where the body is attacking the Mott C.
I still do NAD+, I still do glutathione, I still do GHK. So all of those spots, I have to do my injections. Glutathione I do here in my ventral glutes. Test I do my ventral glute. I do NAD+ in my shoulder.
What I would suggest is, rather than doing so many different injections, combine them. Rather than injecting here, there, all over, poking multiple holes in the body. And remember, every time you poke the hole, that is a chance for an infection. One more tip, and this applies to peptides, steroids, whatever, if you happen to be injecting this at home. Always examine what you're about to inject. If you see things floating around, floaties or crystals, hard portions, don't inject it. That is not something you want to introduce into your body.
To me, this is very clearly a Mott C issue. You know what I'm saying?
And so, yeah, you're clearly having a Mott C issue. Your body doesn't like it. You're perhaps allergic to it at this point, but the real issue is you're too stupid and you keep injecting it. What's wrong with you? Like, really? Maybe smarten up. Maybe learn from what you're doing, from your mistakes, and do something else.
When I had this, I was like, I still want to continue to use the Mott C, so I did switch vials.
At this point, I'm starting to think, is it possible to get an addiction to Mott C? Like mental, physical, spiritual, social? Like, why does he want to inject it this bad? Every time I inject it, I get all kinds of infections. My body is speaking out to me in Braille, but yet I keep needing to do it. Does that not sound like somebody who's obsessed?
Just want to point out, I'm also on antibiotics, cephalexin, and sulfamethyl-trimethaformin or whatever.
And so essentially, by saying the medications that he's on, he's essentially telling us, if you read between the lines, that he has MRSA, which is a highly resistant bacteria. This is a highly infectious contagion that is transmitted through skin-to-skin contact. And so, although it isn't technically an STD, if you're having sexy time and you're rubbing each other or doing anything where skin is on contact with skin, that other person can now get it. And so what we can see is that Soosh is a chronic carrier of MRSA, as he's had abscesses in multiple areas. And so you gotta be careful around Soosh. We've all heard of dangers associated with IV drug users injecting things all the time. Well, when you're constantly using your body as a pincushion, I mean, almost every single day injecting something, you essentially have all the same risk factors as an IV drug user. And so although he isn't an IV drug user, it's carrying the same factors as that. These factors, for example, they include endocarditis or getting sepsis. And so Soosh needs to be extra careful.
Let me know your thoughts with all this new information. Or do I need to go straight to the hospital? Let me know, because I need to get this left side figured out. All right, Mott C is a great peptide, though. I didn't want to stop it because it was actually, after like 3 weeks of Mott C, bro, 15 milligrams, it was cooking. It was like, I felt unreal.
And so if you've been intimate with Soosh, I would strongly suggest you get swabbed for MRSA to ensure that you don't have it. I'm not making this video to scare you away from taking peptides. Of course, you can go to AlGoRx and get safe peptides, but there is a small risk if you don't do things right. You're not disinfecting the vial, you're not alcohol swabbing your skin, you can in fact get an infection. You can get bacteria inside your body, and this is not good. If you see something going wrong, please go to your doctor. Don't turn a blind eye. So many people think, oh, I'll just let it slide. It'll go away on its own. Why would you say that? Go to the doctor, get checked out, and the earlier you go, the better. It's so much easier to get it in the early stages rather than waiting until the last minute. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algo. Please go to Algo RX for the safest peptides medications that doctors will prescribe you from compounding pharmacies. Don't forget to watch one of those 2 bloops. If you're interested in being coached or you'd like to be sponsored, or if you want to carry the HLT supplements in your store, center, gym, click the link and get to the website and use code Greg. And until next time, I am out.